Hello everyone and welcome back guys to round 9 of season 2 of our F1 2020 McLaren driver career mode, where today we're here back ready for the Canadian Grand Prix. Now obviously it has been a few days since the last video went live from Baku. Obviously if you guys missed out on that video, I would definitely recommend going back and checking it out. Obviously a bit of an apologies that video obviously didn't feature any live commentary. Hopefully, if this is all working, you will be hearing this intro now, and live commentary is back for this one. Yeah, I did appreciate the irony in the fact that I'd said in the video the day before that I like doing live com on these sorts of things, and then that was the time that my live commentary decided not to work. But hopefully, yeah, today we are back to normal. A massive thank you as well for the continued support on the channel, but obviously I know I'm going to keep saying it. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure you do so as well. It really does help us out. We're trying to hit 15,000 subs on the channel at the moment. So yeah, obviously if you do go on to enjoy these videos, make sure you do click that little subscribe button, as well as obviously click the bell icon if you don't want to miss any future videos. But yeah, jumping in though to this weekend, like I said, obviously there will be spoilers from Azerbaijan, so if you missed out on that, go back and check it out. There will of course be spoilers in 3, 2, 1 now. So heading out of Baku even, sorry I should say, we still have an 11-point lead at the top of the championship here. Lando Norris in P2, Hamilton still in third place, ahead of Bottas and Sergio Perez, who's been a man on a mission in the early stages of this championship. But yeah, 11 points heading into Canada. Things are looking quite good. Obviously, we've got a bit of a margin in the Constructors' Championship as well, but hopefully today we can continue on the good form. Canada, obviously last season, it was a track that we served penalties at. I don't know. Ooh, we might actually need to take a penalty this weekend, actually, looking at it. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, the ICE is looking a little bit worse for wear. How much is that going to be a penalty? No, there is not a penalty for that. So I might actually go with a fresh engine in the back of the car this weekend. Obviously, we haven't done too many durability upgrades in this series, so we'll try that. And yeah, hopefully, therefore, we'll have a fresh engine ready to try and stick it in pole position in Quali. So here we are then, qualifying day for the Canadian Grand Prix, and if free practice is anything to go by, I am struggling a bit around this circuit this weekend. It's incredible how one race that we do back in the My Team car means that I then spent half of practice missing my braking points into pretty much every corner around this circuit, as every braking point is just absolutely massive. But heading into qualifying though, hopefully we can get that kicked up. Obviously, like I said, we have got a fresh engine in the back of the car ready for this one. So fingers crossed, obviously we'll have a little bit of extra grunt down the straight, but let's just see if I can focus on hitting me markers and getting a good lap hooked up here. Obviously we've already had 2 qualifying pole positions to our name in the world of Formula 1. Mercedes, however, do look quick this weekend once more. We've had the last couple of races where the McLaren has just looked a little bit more comfortable, as that is our first sort of missed apex there. As you can see, Bottas romps up the road out of the first few corners there, and unfortunately, yeah, we're down in the mid-pack at the moment as we head in towards the next chicane. Do gain a couple of places back up there, but obviously not a particularly long lap. You really have got to get it hooked up around this circuit. It's down into the hairpin, a big lock-up on the inside wheel isn't going to allow us to get a particularly good run off the exit of the corner, but hopefully the straight line speed, the grunt of this McLaren, can help us back towards the front of the field. It's definitely not going to be pole position here in the Canadian Grand Prix. It's very much turned into damage limitation as we head in towards the final chicane. Take way too much curb on the exit. That has not been a particularly good run at the final turn there, but we do come through still for P5 at the end there. I know we were a bit cheeky through the final chicane, but we just couldn't quite get the car where we wanted it on the way in there. But 5th place on the grid is not bad.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Hamilton, Bottas, and Lando Norris. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
So there we go then, a qualifying done and dusted for the Canadian Grand Prix, and Mercedes are looking incredibly fast, ready for this weekend there. Lando Norris, only a 10th quicker than myself in 3rd place there, for Sergio Perez splitting the McLaren there. Max Verstappen did a good job in 6th ahead of Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Albon, and Daniel Ricciardo. There was Stroll just missing out on the top 10 there. But I'm interested to see then, quickly before we jump into this race, have Mercedes brought any upgrades this weekend? Or is it just looking like a track they're strong at? So just having a look then, it does appear that Mercedes have brought upgrades here to the Canadian Grand Prix from Azerbaijan. So they are looking incredibly good, ready for this race. We do have one aero piece in the works as well there. But yeah, the gap at the top incredibly close between ourselves and Mercedes. I did say I was going to look at the performance chart after the last video. So there it is for you guys. I didn't entirely forget about it. But let's dive in ready for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at a fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than a tenth of a second. We'll be seeing top speeds of around 210 miles an hour here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 2/3 of the lap taken at full throttle. High-speed chicanes spell potential danger, especially at the infamous Wall of Champions. And watch out for overtaking into the hairpin and the final chicane. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Now, can I talk to you about Sebastian Vettel? Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Mr. Monaco, Max Verstappen and Leclerc, Ocon, Albon, Ricciardo and Lance Stroll, Kvyat, Gasly, Sergio Perez and Magnussen, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Nicholas Latifi and Antonio Giovinazzi. Russell and Sebastian Vettel starts from the back of the grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
I'm just going to ignore Jeff's recommendations ready for this race, but once again then, it appears that penalties have had a big impact ready on the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel and Sergio Perez both starting out of position, so it's going to be interesting to see how well those guys can climb back through the pack there. But it does now mean it's Mercedes front row, McLaren all second row as well here on the grid, so hopefully we can try and mount a challenge to the Mercedes team. Obviously Hamilton really the king of Canada on just in his entire Formula 1 career. He's always gone well around this circuit, but today hopefully we can try and put an end to his good run of, well, not quite put an end to his good run of form, but hopefully we can try and beat him around at this circuit here today. 19.5 laps worth of fuel in the car. We're going to pit into lap 7, into lap 8, see obviously how well these soft tyres last in the first stint, but the main aim is just keeping it clean and tidy in towards the first corner here. I've got to be careful on the brakes. Don't want to run into the back of Bottas or Hamilton here, but we are waiting on those 5 red lights. And it is lights out on the grid, ready for the Canadian Grand Prix. And Lando, I thought I got off to a good start there, but just gets a bit of wheel spin. In the second stage, we got Albon diving, Verstappen even, diving to the inside through the first couple of corners there, and he does pull off the move, as well as we just get boxed in there. Charles Leclerc trying to make something happen as well as we head down in towards the next chicane. We just dive back at the inside of the Ferrari as we get a little bit squirrely on the exit off the corner there, so we have only lost the 1 place off the starts again, just like we did in qualifying, understeering massively in towards sector 2 there, so it hasn't been a particularly brilliant start as you watch the Mercedes romp away at the front of the field there. Lando and Max Verstappen trying to give chase as we are just trying to work out our own lines at the start of this Grand Prix under ever-increasing pressure from Charles Leclerc just behind us as we head down into the hairpin again, just running so deep into a couple of the corners here. These really are not errors that someone trying to battle for a world champion should be making as we get very fishtaily out of the hairpin. A couple of yellow flags out further back due to just, I think, General Constantina and up in towards the hairpin there. But anyway, down through the final chicane. We have survived the first lap. Hopefully we're slowly getting into a good rhythm there as Hamilton leads the way ahead of Bottas, Lando, Verstappen and myself. Coming towards the end of lap 2 already, starting to apply a bit more pressure to Max Verstappen as we slowly seem to be able to get the car working in this Grand Prix a lot more. Obviously, the Red Bull's still going to be very much a sitting duck down the straights, just like we saw last time out in Baku there. But Verstappen, he's going to go defensive in towards the final chicane. Just nowhere to go on the outside of the Dutchman there as we're going to try again out of the final corner. Hamilton appears to be romping away at the front of the field there as we do get to the inside of Max. We get up the inside. We go very, very late on the brakes, slam the door shut on the exit of the corner, and we are now up into 4th once more. Norris and Bottas just in front of us seem to be duking it out, allowing Hamilton to romp away. Norris really applying some pressure to Bottas in towards the final chicane there. They are going to go side by side, and are we going to be able to capitalise on this? Out of the final corner, Lando incredibly slow on the exit there. He's still got the DRS. He's going to fly past Bottas, so we're going to follow him past. So Bottas loses 2 places in one straight to the McLaren drivers there as we now move ourselves up into the podium places. Then Norris moves himself up into 2nd, and poor old Bottas is left wondering what on earth has happened in that situation. Now that obviously does mean we can try and go for a bit of a risky strategy, see if we can force Hamilton into pit a bit earlier than he would like. However, he is already 3 seconds up the road ahead of Lando and myself in this Grand Prix. Really has had the perfect start to this race, as we're probably going to try and work with our teammate just for a couple of laps here, see if we can make anything happen, see if we can close down that gap. So you can see we've got a big DRS run on our teammate here. We won't go for anything in towards the final chicane. We do not want to come together in this Grand Prix, but yeah, we'll see what we can do. To the end of lap 6 though, Lando and I are definitely closing in on Lewis Hamilton here. We're sort of just pushing and dragging each other along at the moment. Obviously, we're just really throwing it up behind him in through the corners, trying to get him on the hurry up. And obviously down the straightaways, he's just able to carry us along. Who's that with issues? Is that Hamilton at the front of the field? Is that why we've been taking so much time out of him over the last couple of laps there? I didn't quite catch who it was with those issues, but I do hope, obviously, it's not Lando. I'd be inclined to think it'd be Lewis. After all, he's lost about 1.5 seconds over the last couple of laps. However, it could very easily be someone down in the midfield. End of lap 7 though, Hamilton into the pits already, so Hamilton is going to try and not get undercut by myself and Lando Norris. As I was just about to say, obviously, now it becomes a question of who gets the first pit stop, as it hasn't flashed up for us. So I reckon Lando's been given the chance to pit in at the end of this lap here, so we're going to have to go all the way to halfway stage of this Grand Prix here. But Hamilton, is he going to be able to get an undercut? Oh, that's not where you want to be through there. But yeah, let's just see if Hamilton can get the undercut. I think he has just about come out and clear traffic, so Mercedes have mastered that pit stop. But now, yeah, hopefully Lando and I can continue on with the good pace on the softs. Still making big inroads on Lando Norris in towards the final chicane, but I'm a bit worried about going for anything in case he wants to pit here, and yes he does. So it's a good job I didn't try and just pit that lap anyway, as Lando Norris into the pits he goes. So we're going to have to go for one dream lap here around this Canadian GP circuit, as it seems pretty much everyone else in this race's pit is one of the Renaults pulling to the wayside there. Daniel Ricciardo out of the Grand Prix, and oh how that would have been such a bad time for a safety car for ourselves. But we've gotten away with it, as Ricciardo, yeah, very, very unfortunate to drop it out at the halfway stage of this race.
Hello, flag.
Coming down in through the hairpin, you can just see Daniel Ricciardo's stricken Renault on the outside of the corner there, but it seems like Hamilton has pulled away a couple of tenths of a second over our teammate Lewis Hamilton through that pit stop window there. I don't think we're going to get the undercut on Lando, unless of course he did get held in the pit lane. Nice and tidy on the way in though. I don't think I could have got that pit stop much better than that there, as I think Kvyat is going to inherit the lead, albeit only for a lap or two here around the Canadian GP circuit on the old turn strat. Come on, get in gear. 2.6 second stop, or it would have been had I not mucked up the gears there. But heading back down out of the pit lane, Latifi as well luckily has held up a bit of a train of cars further back there, so I think we should safely be out still in P4, P4 of the Grand Prix, and net P3, as Charles Leclerc now somehow ahead of Verstappen and Bottas, so they must have both had an absolute nightmare through the pit window. But Lando and I still trying to hound down Hamilton, but the gap now for me, 5 seconds to the race leader. Lando pretty much splat bang in the middle. Hamilton now appears to be stuck behind the AlphaTauri of Danny Capure in this Grand Prix there, so it's really not looking good for the Mercedes man, as we've already taken 2 seconds out of him in just the lap since we pit here, so he needs to try and get past Capure as soon as possible. Lando's right up behind him as well now in this Grand Prix. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's just inside the DRS zone as well as we head through the hairpin. Is Hamilton now going to be able to get a run on the AlphaTauri out in towards the final chicane of the lap? When are we going to see Capure pit as well? Because for Lando and I at the moment, we want that AlphaTauri to stay out for as long as possible, as Hamilton just doesn't seem to have the legs to get past him down the straightaways here. Capure does dive it into the pits though at the end of lap 11 there, so he's done a very, very good run on those mediums there, and he's allowed myself and Lando to close in as we set a new fast lap of the Grand Prix, dipping down into the 109s. Lap 13 coming towards the end now of this Canadian Grand Prix, and Lando and I very, very close behind Lewis Hamilton. However, Lando this lap hasn't really been able to get particularly close. That does make me wonder whether our teammate is going to be able to get past the Mercedes man. Obviously, we've got slightly fresher rubber. I certainly want to try and give this a go if we possibly can here, but I also don't really want to just end up having a mistake with Lando and costing us both a shot at the race victory, so I'm willing to give him a couple more chances to try and go for something here. But I can't help but feel that we could fly past Hamilton if we get the opportunity, but can Lando do the same? Come on, Lando, moment of truth time. You've got to be able to try and get at least close to him in towards the braking zone, and it just doesn't look like Lando's going to get close enough. We'd certainly get close enough to our teammate there, cost ourselves a little bit of ground out of the final chicane. But yeah, Lando, he needs to really be applying a lot more pressure to Hamilton in front of him if we want to make anything work. Oh, Hamilton that time round, just a small mistake on the exit of the hairpin there. Are we now going to see Lando Norris get a run on the Mercedes man with just 3 laps to go here? Hamilton goes defensive on Lando Norris there, but Lando gets clean around the outside. Hamilton keeps the nose in. We've got nowhere to go in this situation, and just like we saw with Bottas earlier on, both McLarens get past both Mercedes in 2 simple moves there, and we're now straight up into a 1-2 in this Canadian Grand Prix. We didn't have the pace in qualifying throughout a lot of the early stages of this Grand Prix. It didn't look like we had the pace to win either. But Mercedes, yeah, just faltered in 2 fatal moments, and suddenly we find ourselves with another 1-2 in one of these races. I can really tell, since we managed to both get past Hamilton in that move there, that Lando is trying to do everything he can to try and break away from us towards the end of this Grand Prix. We might see what we saw last time around at Baku, where we just get one shot to try and go for something right at the end of this Grand Prix. I'm trying to manage the fuel as well. We certainly don't have a lot in reserve there, as we just get a little bit squirrely out of the hairpin. Are we going to be able to get a run down in towards the final chicane this time around? We haven't got much ERS to play with on this lap as well here, as Lando, he is aware of us, but we just can't get close enough to go for anything in towards the final chicane here. 1 lap to go here from the Canadian GP, and are we going to be able to find any sort of move there? We have got a bit of a run down in towards turn 1. We'll have a look there, but Lando really gives us the squeeze through the first corner. We'll try and go side by side out of turn 2. Again, he gives us a big squeeze on the exit of the corner that completely comes across me in towards the next braking zone, and Lando Norris holds on to the race lead for now here in the Canadian Grand Prix. But all this is allowing is Hamilton to just get a little bit closer to the pair of us once more in the dying stages of this race there. 3 cars separated by 1 second on the final lap here of the Canadian Grand Prix, and we need to save as much ERS as we possibly can, ready for the final chicane of the lap there. Again, just getting a little bit fishtaily on the exit of the corner here. We are really pushing this car to the absolute limit and beyond here in towards the hairpin. Accidentally engaged neutral there. That allows us to get a little bit of extra rotation, but really just costs us a run on the exit of the corner here. Are we going to be able to get any sort of run on our teammate Lando Norris in towards the final chicane? We have got a big slipstream on our teammate side by side in towards the final corner of this Canadian Grand Prix. Lando slots in front, and we tried to get the power down on the exit, but nothing we could do there in the end. 3 cars, half a second, but in the end it's P2.
Brilliant job, mate. That's a fantastic podium. Super driving, really strong pace. Very, very happy.
A beautiful performance from McLaren today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure, and no doubt they'll be celebrating tonight. So let's review the updated driver's standings. Not the result our points leader wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
It's got to be Lando Norris, hasn't it? Smooth, confident and assured. I've got no doubt that he and his team are going to be over the moon with his performance today.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren continue to increase their gap at the top. Meanwhile, a strong weekend from Red Bull this time out, and they improve their position in the championship. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
Well, there we are then, guys, the end of the Canadian Grand Prix. And yeah, like I said, 3 cars battling for the win, separated by 0.6 of a second there. But we just didn't quite have the confidence to get around the outside of Lando. You know, there is a constructors' battle on the line as well, and especially if Mercedes keep bringing more and more upgrades, you know, this battle could very much go right down to the bitter end, and every point might matter come at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix there. But it is Lando Norris who takes his second race victory in a row there. Another really close gap between both McLarens in the end there, and like I said, obviously Hamilton getting involved in that battle as well. That means Lando takes another 6 points out of myself, making it incredibly close at the top of the championship there. Verstappen comes home in 4th place there ahead of Charles Leclerc, and yeah, Mercedes from 1st and 2nd on the grid, looking like the fastest and the team to beat this weekend, 3rd and 6th at the checkered flag. There is really not a day out to remember there. Albon in 7th ahead of Ocon, Stroll and Gasly, rounding out the top 10 there. Perez just missing out after his grid penalties. Who knows what he would have been able to achieve had he started where he normally would be there. And you can see Kvyat on the alternate strat didn't quite make it work, but wasn't far away from the points nonetheless there. Then, of course, you got both Haas, both Williams, and obviously Sebastian Vettel, who went from 20th to 15th at the end of the Grand Prix there. And obviously Danny Rick not making it to the checkered flag there. And that means in terms of the championship, 5 points now the gap between myself and Lando Norris at the top of the field there. Hamilton 22 behind. He's just dropping away ever so slightly. He needs a couple more wins on the board if he wants to get back into this there. As Bottas still in 4th place there. Does pick up a few points ahead of Sergio Perez, but yeah, definitely not as many as it should have been. Further down the order though, Charles Leclerc gets the jump on Danny Rick, obviously after that DNF. Albon gets the jump on Pierre Gasly as well, back inside the top 10 of the Drivers' World Championship there. But that is the only movers in the Drivers' Championship. Red Bull jump back past Ferrari in a battle for 4th place at the moment. There are 5 points now separating Racing Point and Red Bull there, and a further 5 points separating Ferrari as well, as that bitter blow for Renault drops them a little way back, but certainly, yeah, a lot can be done in the second half of the season there. But thank you all so much for watching this video nonetheless. If you did enjoy, do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well for more F1 2020 content on the channel. Tomorrow we will be back with the Bahrain Grand Prix from the My Team career mode. But yeah, we will be back very, very soon. With round 10 of the season, we head to the French Grand Prix. Not a track that's often delivered brilliant racing and real Formula 1, but hopefully the McLaren RTG will be a little bit different. I will see you guys very, very soon with more Formula 1 content. A big thank you to our channel members for making these videos possible. You can be featured in these end clips as well as granted access to some other exclusive perks for just £1 a month by clicking the join button below.